So today we are talking about time management. Excuse me, do you have the time is the name of the presentation, and we're going to be focusing on some tips and techniques to make sure that you are using your time effectively. I apologize for a congested voice today as I'm a little bit under the weather. But anyway, again, my name is Kathleen Moorhead. I'm the owner of Peyton Consulting, and my mission is to help move people and projects forward and to provide techniques and tools that can sometimes be stumbling blocks. So, what I want us to first do is to take a step back and imagine starting each day, knowing your priorities for the day, and ending each day knowing that you made a difference. Not because you checked every box, but because you invested in what truly counted. And I think that's a vision that most of us share and wish that we had each and every day, because there's days that go by that I know me personally, can't even remember what I did because it just flew by. But if we can be more intentional with our time, and if we can put some prioritization to how we're spending our time, then this vision is accomplishable. I have a quote on there from Stephen Covey. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. So this is really a mindset shift. And the mindset shift is that being productive is not directly related to the number of tasks that we complete. We often measure productivity by the tasks that were completed rather than the impact that we're able to create. And what happens is that we tend to have really, really busy days running around from meeting to meeting, answering emails. And at the end of the day, we've made very little progress on what really matters. This is what they call the reactive trap. It's letting your incoming requests dictate your schedule, and it leaves no room for your priorities. How many of us go into work every day, or we start our day by logging into our email, and whatever is at the top of our email inbox is what we're focused on, and we complete that task, and then we move to the next email and the next email and the next email. It's not about what we wanted to come in and do that day. It's about what other people are asking of us to do. And I'm not saying to ignore your email. There's a time and a place to do that. But the intent of what I want to communicate today is about letting you set the schedule of how you spend your day, letting you determine what your priorities are, and letting you manage your time instead of somebody else managing your time for you. Just take a second again and step back and reflect on your last workday, whether it was this morning or whether it was yesterday or maybe at some point last week, and think whether or not your day was intentional or whether it was reactive. And again, reactive is you're responding to requests as they come in versus intentionally setting time to do the things that matter to you most. So when we talk about time management, it's not just about getting things done. It's about focusing on the right tasks at the right moments to make the right impact. And again, if we think of being productive as just checking things off of our list, but not really productive as being seen as having impact, moving the needle, moving things forward, however you want to say it, then we're going to get stuck in that reactive trap of just checking off things off of our to-do list, responding to emails, and we're never going to allocate the time or the effort to properly plan to manage the things that actually have impact and that matter to us. So where do we begin? How do we start to shift the mind a little bit? So think about traditional to-do lists. They tend to be this bucket where we place everything that we have to do into that bucket. And it becomes a catch-all for every task imaginable. And we add very large, ambiguous tasks, projects, initiatives to that bucket. I have some examples here. Write a monthly report. develop a training program, submit an annual budget. Similarly, on a private, personal to-do list, the analogies to these would be clean the house, plan a vacation, planning a family vacation is a good example there. So we can't just have this large, big task on our to-do list because we'll never be able to accomplish it. It will just sit there. What we have to do is shift our thinking to make it into tasks that are actually achievable. And typically there's multiple tasks that you need to complete in order to complete the larger goal. How low do we go is what we say. How granular do we get in those tasks? A rule of thumb, and use your own judgment on what works for you, but a rule of thumb could be identify tasks that actually can be completed in 30 minutes to 2 hours. Now that can be modified for you. You could do 15 minutes to an hour, but just have some benchmark of the tasks that you're going to use to break down those larger tasks. So for example, for a monthly report, instead of having the monthly report on your to-do list, you would have a review of your last month's budget for clarity and completeness. Outline the key data points or sections for the next report. Identify 1 to 2 automated data extraction opportunities. Each of these tasks can actually be completed within 30 minutes to 2 hours. When we use the example of planning a family vacation, explore all-inclusive resorts, for example, within a certain country. That is something that you can actually do in 30 minutes, something that you can accomplish. Planning the vacation is just going to sit there. It's not going to get any traction unless you actually break it down. So you'll see I broke down the examples for the training program and the budget as well. So you can just read that and digest the additional tasks that I have listed there. But again, to emphasize, you have your larger goals, right? Those might be the big things that you want to accomplish. But in order to make progress on achieving those goals, you have to identify actionable steps to achieve those goals. And the benchmark that I use is within 30 minutes to 2 hours. If it can be accomplished within those 30 minutes to 2 hours, then that is worthy of documenting as a task. And you might be wondering why 30 minutes and not, why aren't you listing things that can be done in 15 minutes? Another rule of thumb is if something can be done within 15 minutes, you're just doing it. You're not even writing it down, right? You're just getting it done and it's not even part of the to-do list. That might not work for you. And like I said, you might have to move that benchmark down to 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Again, it's the concept of breaking down larger goals into smaller actionable steps. And once we do that, we have to then prioritize. And how we prioritize, and this is just one tool, this is what I find works most effectively, is what's called the Eisenhower matrix. So Dwight D. Eisenhower said, what is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. And just digest that quote for a minute, because you have to read it a couple of times to really understand what it's saying. But the concept here is that you're going to have things on your list, on your to-do list that you've broken down into actionable steps. And you're going to have things that come in, right? There's going to be phone calls that you receive or emails or requests that aren't necessarily on your to-do list at that time, but they're going to come in, and you have to do something with this information. Otherwise, if you try to do everything, you'll get nothing done. So this Eisenhower matrix creates these 4 quadrants for us to put our tasks into so that we have a visual cue of what we actually need to focus on. And we have buckets of the work that we can quote unquote do something with. So I'm going to go through each of these buckets with you. So the first upper left-hand quadrant is called important and urgent. And these are critical tasks that require immediate attention. And they create the most stress when neglected. So the question we ask ourselves with these tasks are, can it wait till tomorrow? And if the answer is no, then they go into this bucket. And these are the things that you have to do first. Personal example, if it's somebody's birthday, for example, waiting till tomorrow to wish them a happy birthday. Sure, you can wish them a happy belated birthday, but that's not nearly going to be as sincere or meaningful if you take the time to wish them the happy birthday on the day. So that's something that's not really negotiable as far as timelines is concerned. It has to be done today. So that's categorized as important and urgent. The bucket to the right, important and not urgent. So these are strategic activities that drive long-term success. These are the things that you need to do because they are super important, but they don't necessarily have to be done today. So the intent around this bucket is the items that go in this, you're going to actually schedule time to complete these tasks. And this bottom bucket on the left-hand side, not important, but urgent. So somebody is putting pressure on you that this has to get done. Maybe it's paying a bill, for example. And they feel super pressing, they're time constrained, but they're not super important. These are things that possibly you could delegate to somebody else. And delegation is a whole nother topic, and I'm not implying that we delegate things that are not important to people. What I'm implying is that in this bucket, we have to ask ourselves, am I the one that needs to complete this task, or is there somebody else who could actually do this task? Because the whole concept here is to have time so that we can focus on the things that matter, right? Doing the right tasks at the right time to have the right amount of impact. So if there's tasks that are allocating our time for, but we don't necessarily need to be the ones doing it, then those could be tasks that fall into this bucket and that they can be delegated to somebody else. And this fourth quadrant, not important and not urgent. These are time-wasting activities with minimal value. We can completely delete these activities. When we think about it, is it adding value? Does anybody care that I'm doing this? Is it going to have any impact at all? So these might be tasks that you identify as part of your activities for completing the larger tasks. But then when you take a step back, you're like, you know what? I really don't even need to do this. It's not going to matter in the whole scheme of things. So we have these four buckets. The top one, you're going to do. To the right, you're going to schedule. To the bottom, you're going to delegate. And to the bottom right, you're going to delete. Now, most people, as I have noted here, spend too much time in quadrants 1 and 3 because they're unable to distinguish between what Dwight D. Eisenhower said, what is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. So a helpful tip to help get out of 1 and 3 and to focus on 2, that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. For number 1, you want to say, can this wait till tomorrow? If this cannot wait till tomorrow, it's important and urgent. And for this bottom bucket, you're going to ask yourself, am I the only one that can do this? And if you're not the only one that can do it, then it's something that possibly could be delegated. So I took the example that we had from the previous slide. I'll just go back here. So we had our monthly report, our training program, and our budget. I applied the Eisenhower matrix to those tasks and put the tasks into different buckets. So for important and urgent, and this is all hypothetical, but this is important and urgent because my director, for example, asked me to identify what are your three main budgetary requests going to be. He needs that because he needs to do something with that information. So he's already requested it by end of day. I need to get it to him. So I need to focus on that. In this second bucket, these are the things I'm going to schedule. These are things that are super important that need to get done, but I'm going to schedule them because they take between 30 minutes and 2 hours to do. So I'm going to look for time on my calendar to block off so that I can focus on these tasks. And not important and urgent, identify 1 to 2 automated data extraction opportunities. So this was a task that I think is has to be done because somebody has asked me to provide this information to them. But I have a team of people below me who specialize in technology and data extraction. I'm going to delegate this task to one of them, and I'm going to delegate it appropriately, set expectations, be very clear with what my end goal, what the end product should look like. I'm going to check in with them, all the good delegation tips. But this is something that I don't necessarily have to consume my time doing the task. I just have to consume my time mentoring and guiding the person who I delegated it to. And then in this bucket down here, not important and not urgent. So I had researched 1 to 2 simple budgeting tools and approaches. And I take a step back and I realize, this is my own like pet project that I think is important. Nobody else thinks it's important. And considering everything else that I have on my plate, I just really can't take the time to allocate to do this. So I'm taking it off of my plate. So now I went from 9 things on my to-do list and looking at it and thinking, how am I actually going to have time to do any of this? Now I've deleted one, right? I'm not doing this research project. I've delegated another. I've identified one that I'm going to do right away. And now this leaves me with 6 items. And if I did the calculation, if they're all, 30 minutes each, I can get this done over the next 2 days. I'm going to schedule 2 90-minute blocks of time, and I'm going to focus on these tasks during that block of time. So I'm going to send you guys, just so you have it, a link to an electronic version of the Eisenhower Matrix. I'll send that out in the chat now, so you should have that for you to download and to utilize. There's lots of ways to use this tool, and there's lots of software apps now that have these tools incorporated. You'll see different organization efficiency tools that have different cards so that you can kind of place your work in different buckets. And again, it's a visual organization to help you, and it's also a mental exercise to go through so that what you do have to do, you've already identified that it is important and that you need thoughtful time to allocate to doing that work. So after we have prioritized and we have things that are, let me just go back. So we're going to focus right now on this bucket right here, this important and urgent bucket. And the items that are in that important and urgent bucket, I refer to as the frogs that you need to eat. So Mark Twain actually had a quote, and he said, "Eat a live frog first thing in the morning, and nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day." And what that means is that if you intentionally, first thing in the morning, identify what your frogs are, what are the things that you've been avoiding? What are the things that can't wait till tomorrow? They're super time sensitive. What are things that you've just been procrastinating on, but you know that the time has come that you have to do it? Those are the frogs. Those are the things that you want to get done, because once you get those difficult tasks off your plate first thing in the morning, the rest of the day is going to seem like a breeze. So you tackle it first, complete your frog when you have the most willpower, focus, dedication. Most people, this is first thing in the morning. Possibly it's at the end of the workday for some others, but find a chunk of time where you're going to eat your frogs. And when you're doing that Eisenhower matrix, your frogs often go into the upper left-hand quadrant. So what we want to do is we want to plan ahead. Don't let the day dictate you. So again, that whole visual of opening your laptop, stepping into your office, opening your computer, and you just start being reactive to the emails that are coming in. You are allowing other people to tell you how to spend your day. I'm not discounting using professional judgment. I'm not discounting when there's crises, when there's fires, when there's urgent requests from management. I'm not discounting any of that because we all need to be flexible and be able to pivot. But we should always start our day with the intention of having a plan in place. So when you plan ahead, you're positioning yourself to be proactive rather than reactive. And even I'm up here even 10 minutes of planning. So if you allocate, let's just say we create a space on our calendar every morning from 7:30 to 8 o'clock for planning. Okay, that's 30 minutes a day. Let's say 3 times out of the week, that block of time gets hijacked because there are issues, because there are crises, because we all work in fast-paced environments and the day doesn't always go as planned. Okay, we still got 60 minutes, right? Those 2 days that 30 minutes wasn't hijacked, that's 60 more minutes than we had the week before when we set aside no time for planning, when we didn't have any time dedicated to focus on what really matters. So the more time you set for planning, the more you get into the groove of it, the more value you're going to feel and the more beneficial it's going to be to you, and the more you will want to preserve and protect that bucket of time. So just some reminders here. Spend 10 minutes each evening planning how you're going to spend your bucket of time in the morning. Right? So at the end of the day, maybe that's your brain dump of, okay, here's everything that came up today. I didn't organize it. I didn't put it into my Eisenhower matrix. I don't even know what needs to be done with it, but I know something needs to be done with it. Just do a brain dump, 10 minutes, end of day. That way, when you start your day and you have this allocated block of time, you're going to have a start of what you need to start thinking about and planning for and putting those items, breaking down those tasks into manageable tasks and putting them into those buckets. Identify your frog, right? Identify what's the most challenging thing that you need to do and get it done with. Otherwise, the mental drain that it's going to put on you all day by thinking over and over again about that you need to do it. Let's just do it and get it done with. And then create bookends, it's called. So developing consistent startup and shutdown routines that frame your day with intention. So like I just example for you was at the end of the day, pen and paper, your notes app, whatever tool you find most efficient, you're wrapping up your day, but you're also setting yourself up for success in the morning. And conversely, you're starting your day with a ritual. Maybe it's not going into your email right away. Maybe the first thing that you're doing every morning is pulling up your Eisenhower matrix, pulling up your notes app, pulling up whatever tool it is where you are organized so that you can use some time to plan and think through your day. So we have to protect time for deep work. So everything that fell into that second quadrant that we said we were going to schedule time for, that's deep work, right? Those are things that we can't whip out in 10 or 15 minutes. It's going to take 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour to do. And we want to be able to focus. And the only way that we can focus is if we have uninterrupted time. So getting into the habit of blocking dedicated blocks of time on your calendar. Again, maybe when you're at your most productive time of the day. Sometimes that's in the morning, sometimes that's right before lunch, after lunch, end of day. And if you have to start with 30 minutes, book 30 minutes. If you can get 60 minutes in there, get 60 minutes. And again, if it gets hijacked, 2 days out of the week, it gets hijacked 2 days out of the week. It is what it is, but you're still going to have more time allocated than you would have if you didn't schedule or get anything on your schedule. So my terminology that I use to name it is it's my focus time. Like I need to focus. Phone is off, distractions are limited, I'm not in my email, I'm not multitasking. I'm focused, I'm diving deep because I want to actually complete things. I want to feel that I have made a movement forward momentum on achieving the goals that I have set. And it's okay to communicate these boundaries with others. It's okay to say that you're unavailable because you are working. Just because we're not in a meeting, again, don't confuse productivity with just checking things off of your to-do list or sitting in meetings. You're doing valuable work. You're in a leadership position. You're getting paid to be a strategic thinker. You're getting paid to be organized and to plan and to be thoughtful about your work. So this is equally as important as it would be to be sitting in a meeting with other colleagues. So just to kind of wrap up here, we don't want to wait to have the time to know what we'll do with the time, right? We want to already know when we have the time, here's what I'm going to do. So you can hit the ground running. So let's just we're just about ready to wrap up, but let's just take a second and imagine that it's Friday. And what would make this week feel truly successful? And ask yourself, is there one low impact task that you could eliminate or postpone? It's really not adding much value. Something that's been on the to-do list, but you know what? I'm realizing that it's really just not that important anymore. Could you schedule a 30-minute block, 60-minute block, or 90-minute deep work block in your calendar for the next week? Can you write down your frogs? Can you write down for tomorrow? What are the most important tasks that you should be able to complete? So I'm happy to continue these conversations. I have two online courses. One is called To Meet or Not to Meet. As we know, meetings can be a huge time suck for us, but there are strategies to put in place not only to manage and facilitate meetings better, but for yourself as a invited attendee of meetings to learn tactics on whether or not you actually need to be attending those meetings so that you can have more dedicated time to do things that matter and have the most impact. And another course called What Time Is It? Which this is a subset of that course, and it just goes into additional tools and tactics to work more efficiently. I offer coaching. Happy to meet with anybody. Just shoot me an email and we can schedule a time. And upcoming webinars in the future include in July, Who's Got the Wheel? That is going to be on how to clarify roles, reduce confusion, and keep projects on track, primarily dealing with how to use and implement a RACI matrix. And another webinar in August, which is called Speeding Ahead Without a Plan. And that's going to talk about when to stop, drop, and plan to avoid a disaster. So that's going to deal with work breakdown schedules and how to do appropriate planning. This is a QR code, which you can certainly capture, which will take you to my bio site with all the social media platforms. But I thank you for joining today. I hope that you found the session enjoyable and valuable. You'll be receiving a survey if you would mind taking a few minutes so that I can hear from you and understand whether or not this was valuable and additional topics that you would like to hear about. And if you have any questions on the Eisenhower Matrix or anything that we talked about today, shoot me an email and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.